There she is. She decided to join us at the very last minute. Now, before you get started, I get to, make some observations. Rich pointed this out, and I'm sure Angie can't wait to ask this question because she knows that I'm the techno boob in the relationship. Rich noticed that apparently it looks like we're set up for mobile today because we're so small. And you're right, we are so small, Angie. And please don't ask me how because I have no idea what button I clicked. Also, you'll notice, Rich, that my sister looks very heavenly today because she's so blurry looking that she looks like she's coming out of the clouds. And that's just what she does. She comes out of the clouds. And look, she's even clearer now. She's like an angel, like a
Do
little
you
angel.
know? Do you know what that was?
No, but you're
That
going to tell me.
was that was suntan lotion because I'm on vacation. Richie, I happen to work with a guy who likes to work on vacation.
I mean, I kind of can relate. Not, I have some trouble turning it off sometimes.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Rich is on my side. I want everyone to know Rich, you are a popular guy. 255 people are watching today. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So thank you, Rich Servello from Family Services, for being our last but certainly not least guest on Data Security Over Coffee of 2025. And Angie's right. So my little sister and I decided that we were going to get away at the end of the year, take a little bit of a break. We're both in a warm climate, and we're glad that you were able to join us today. And, Angie and you obviously have a close relationship based on the work that she does within Family Services. So, Rich, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you work, what you do, and why the heck would you want to be on Data Security Over Coffee?
Sure. So I'm Richie Servello. I'm born and raised in Altoona, PA. I've been working with Family Services now for almost 8 years. And I am the CAC Program Director for Family Services. So CAC stands for Children's Advocacy Center. We are the Center for Child Justice is our title, is our name. And we are the county's, opportunity to lead children and families to healing through a child-centered response to child abuse, exploitation, neglect, etc. And so, we work with law enforcement, children, youth, and families, the DA's office. We work with all types of disciplines to guide and kind of help bring resources to the families that are affected by abuse. And then from there, we just let them choose their path to how they need to heal and what that looks like. So I love my job. I hate that we have to do it, but I love my job. And so, we're a small team here at the CAC, but we are doing everything we can for the children and the families that we meet. We try to prevent things. We're in schools. We're doing the work as much as we possibly can. And why, I guess why I wanted to be or why I am here, it came up. It sounded like an amazing opportunity, was a bit curious and unsure of what to expect. But yeah, I was just, from the moment I was asked, I was really excited to be part of this and see where the conversation goes.
Very cool. Well, we're glad you're here. Angie, I know that you've talked about this in the past, but since Rich is here, what is your connection to Family Services?
So a few years ago, I finished up my term on the I-Sigma Board of Directors, and that had taken an incredible amount of time. And that was really working within our industry in the secure information management and governance world. But I really wanted to start doing things more locally. And Joe, you really were my inspiration for that, because I watched what you did through your PhD program and then ultimately, creating Farming to Freedom to help formerly and, incarcerated people that were soon to reenter. And I thought, you know what, I really want to now change my focus to doing things to help my own community locally. I had no idea the depth of services that Family Services Incorporated does in our region. What Richie does at CAC is amazing, and it is so needed, to help children and families through that awful time. But we also have programs for, we have adult daycare kind of services that drop in for intellectual disabilities. We have residential programs. We also have facilities to help those who are without housing, domestic violence survivors. So the amount of services that just this one organization does is just mind-boggling to me. And we do it with a small staff. We do it with a lean staff. If you go out to Charity Navigator and you look at the way that Lisa Hahn uses the monies in such a responsible way, it is one of the biggest bang for your charity dollars that you can absolutely get. And so serving my time on the board there now, and recently became secretary of the board, and then the chair opened up for the Children's Advocacy Committee. That's how I got to work with Richie, and his team has just blown me away with the work that they do. We can talk about kind of some of the why people do it, but it's just been so rewarding for me, and I love working with Richie. I was so excited when he said yes to do data security over coffee.
Cool. I find one of the things to be interesting, because people will take a look at a title, family, community, and cyber resilience, and people are probably like, what does Rich Servello, Family Services, CAC, whatever you want to call it, have to do with cybersecurity? And for me, at least, I think the first part is business owners that are taking the opportunity, as you have, to give back to your local community, because if we don't, who will? And if you don't do it, when will it happen? And that's not about standing around a campfire singing Kumbaya. It's about saying to yourself, listen, we're fortunate enough, Rich, next year we will celebrate our 25th anniversary, our 25th birthday of being in business. And if I look a little old on this video, it's simply because of all of the stress and strain and anxiety that Angie has put me through over those 25 years, a lot of tears. But in those 25 years, when you finally get to that place as a business owner where you are freed up to now really engage in your community and give back, it's incredibly rewarding. And I know that she speaks very highly of her work with Family Services. And I know that's the reason why she had reached out to you. When I think about what you do in your job, and when we talk about cyber resilience, the thing that comes to mind for me is all of the personal, private information that you and the organization are collecting, talking about, transacting, storing, et cetera. And I think that would be any organization. We work with a number of nonprofits, not only in Pennsylvania, but in the Northeast region. We just are putting together a project right now for a very large organization in New York City. And when we started talking about the kind of information that they're responsible for managing and the way that they're managing it, which is kind of frightening, it's pretty daunting when you think about it. But what's really scary is making sure that those organizations understand not only their responsibility, but how do they secure it. So Angie, I'm curious from your perspective, if let's say that you're meeting somebody like Rich for the very first time, and you want to talk about being able to secure information and what to look for, and how to have that conversation in the very beginning. What does that conversation sound like from your perspective when you meet somebody like Rich?
Well, that's not really a conversation I had to have with Rich, because, these guys are doing the things they're supposed to be doing. first and foremost, the training that we get around confidentiality is huge. Especially CAC, I shouldn't say especially, because all the services that that Family Services gives are dealing with people who are vulnerable. And it also is worth mentioning that not-for-profits are good targets for cyber criminals. There are a lot of different, there's large amounts of grant money moving around, so they can easily have something go wrong with a phishing attack. One of the reasons that I wanted to be on the board is because I thought that I had a unique skill set in cybersecurity that I could bring to the board. And I think that, when people have a certain skill set, that's a great opportunity to volunteer for boards. One of the most recent people to join our board was Amy Hesser. Amy's an expert in public relations, and she's doing some really cool things since she's come on the board. My conversation really is around the conversations that we have with the MSP that works with Family Services, which is UDNI. And I think that's a great example of how a managed security company can work together with a managed services company like UDNI to collectively bring our services to protect such an important resource in the community.
So, Rich, when you think about the work that you're doing today, is there anything that you can think of that you're concerned about from a cybersecurity or an information security perspective?
I mean, specifically the CAC, we don't spend a lot of time worried about that because of the way that our systems are sort of developed and built to begin with, which is kind of a nice luxury to have. So specifically, a lot of the threats for CACs come in with our recording equipment. So when we're doing forensic interviews, those interviews are recorded. It's a computer-based system. And so anything that's computer-based has its vulnerabilities, but they're designed specifically to be sort of offline. They're not connected to the internet. Our recording cameras are a hardwired connection to the computer. There's nothing being transferred digitally. And then once we are finished with the interview, we burn DVDs. And it sounds old, I know, at this point in 2025, but you can't hack into a DVD, kind of, basically. So we also have protections around the chain of evidence. So when people take a DVD, they have to sign for it. We share very little information via email. If someone needs, we get referrals and things, they're encrypted emails. We try not to share, full names. We use initials if need be. We do things that we, need to do to protect people's information while communicating with the investigative team. So it's really kind of already built into just how we do things. So we have little concern. Now we have disclaimers on our emails. If this gets sent to the wrong person, it's not for you. Please delete it immediately, those kind of things, because we are also human and things happen. But with the effort we've put in as an agency with UDNI, where we do weekly, cybersecurity trainings through UDNI. We just had some stuff in our newsletter about being the human firewall. And so it's like all these things are now culminating in hopefully limiting the number of, risks and vulnerabilities we have as an agency. And I think if we just keep participating in that, we should be well on our way to keeping all of our sensitive information, well protected across the agency.
I think, first of all, I think that you're in a really great position based on what you shared. And I wonder sometimes, because there are other nonprofits, and Angie and I have worked with them in the past that unfortunately have not been as well positioned or as well protected, and they've suffered from that, right? Is there anything that you can think of, because this is really your time, that you want people to know about either excuse me, the role that you play, the work that you do, or the needs that are in the community that, the typical viewer of data security over coffee wouldn't really understand or be made aware of. You and I kind of talked earlier before we joined live about my own awareness of family services. And a lot of that education came from Lisa Hahn. But I'm wondering, in your job, are there things that you would want people to know about that they would have no idea?
So, I mean, in my job specifically, I think there's a lot of misconceptions around child abuse. I think there's a lot of myths that get pushed out as facts when it comes to child abuse, specifically. And that, I mean, that's what we do most often. We're addressing child abuse. As a broad thing across the agency, I think, the stigma that exists around sort of all of the services we provide and the public perception of, domestic violence survivors, or the public perception of child abuse victims, all of the sort of general perception of the people we would be providing services to tend to be negative a lot of the time, right? Society does a lot of victim blaming. The homelessness population, they should be able to figure it out. Why do they need so much help? Like, those kind of questions are concerning to me, doing the work we do, right? I've seen, I'm not involved with every program, but I know what they do. I've seen the work that's being done. And so it's important for people to remember that it's about awareness, and it's about sort of empathy and just viewing every situation with some empathy. But specifically the CAC, we've been doing a lot of messaging on social media. We've been working with local media to talk about the seriousness of kids, teenagers, and the internet and the risks that come with it. And so when I was approached about this, and I saw the title of the episode, it made me think about the best kind of data to secure and protect is your family. And so we talk to kids at schools. I've done over 70 presentations this year in 14 different schools in Blair County. We do programming called NetSmarts. And one of the topics, no matter what grade level I'm talking to, is protecting personal information, right? So you're playing video games with somebody and you're sharing where you go to school and where you live and all this information, and you have no idea who you're talking to. You don't know who the other person is in wherever country or other state or wherever they live. And a lot of kids don't see any kind of real danger in sharing that information. And so if we can start that conversation early and often with literally K through 12, I've presented to kindergartners, I've presented to 11th graders. If we can have that conversation in an age appropriate way, then it's going to go a long way later, right? They're going to be more protective of their financial information when they're adults. They might not be able to, see everything as kids and teenagers, but when they get older, they'll have that foundation and to further the conversation. The other big thing I think is, parents and caregivers being involved in their kids' lives, and especially their digital lives, right? Now it's so simple to have a game system in a bedroom, and that's where the kids live, and which is fine, right? Again, not saying it's not it is what it is, to each their own, but we oftentimes invite predatory people into kids' rooms through video game systems, through other platforms, and we don't really know how to address it, which is why we're doing the NetSmarts and why we're having these conversations, and why I thought it was great to come on and talk about it here. That's the stuff that makes a difference in the long run, is having those conversations, being involved, empowering kids to not be okay with behaviors, right? If they're being cyberbullied, if they're being targeted by a group or something through a video game system, standing up for themselves, standing up for other people, reporting behavior they're not comfortable with, and setting boundaries. All of these things, while they apply to them as kids or teens on the internet, will come in handy in just about any relationship they have as they get older too. Boundaries, safety, all these things play a part in whatever type of relationship you're in. So, I think those are the most important things right now, where we are currently in, December of 2025, with what we've been seeing and the conversations we're having with the students. So, yeah, that's a good
I
question.
I really, really think that the work that Richie's doing in the community with the Net Smarts program is so absolutely important. I don't think that most parents understand what is going on inside the gaming systems that their kids are using. For instance, the game Roblox. Within Roblox, there are games within games. And that's where the predators are hiding, pretending that they are a 10-year-old little girl, 12-year-old boy. And really, it's a scammer sitting in Eastern Europe or Nigeria. And they're grooming the child to the point that the child will send a photograph, an inappropriate photograph, and then turn around and blackmail the kid. Um, and that has been the cause of a lot of self-harm with children. And so a really good podcast, if parents want to kind of understand this more, in addition to having Rich come in and talk to your community group. He doesn't just go to schools, he goes to community groups, your parent teacher organization, any of those things. A really good podcast to listen to is called Left to Their Own Devices. And it's done by a woman who, when she was a girl, was basically taught how to have an eating disorder, with algorithms continuously serving content up to her on how to refine her eating behaviors to fulfill this desire to be unhealthy, thin in a very unhealthy way. So I think as a parent, I consider myself fortunate that, my kid is now 28. He's off on his own. I had no idea what would be happening in gaming systems right now if I were a parent of a young child today. And I don't know how Richie feels about it, but I truly would want any gaming systems to be in the public areas of the house only. I If I had a small child today, a young adolescent, gaming systems, phones, in the bedroom would be an absolute no-no. I would set the router so that the internet literally turned off for them at a certain hour, so that they're not up at 2 and 3 in the morning doom scrolling and being fed this content or having these things happen. So there's so much more happening out there that parents aren't aware of. And if they think they just teach kids not to go to bad sites, they're okay. Unfortunately, the predators are in the places that you think are completely harmless and innocuous, like something like Roblox.
Roblox has a lot of issues. Sorry, I mean, to piggyback off that. So, I think some of that came from some information I've shared with our advisory committee. We've been trying to work with, the Altoona Mirror just ran a story on the 17th of December that I was a part of, kind of going deeper into the issues within Roblox. And so we're trying our best to get that information out there. But yes, Roblox is so that they're on my list currently. That's what I've been telling people. Roblox has made it to my list of, if you can avoid it, try to. Not saying that we know of anything happening locally, but it's just the amount of vulnerability in Roblox for a lot of kids. It outweighs any of the benefits right now of that platform. And I don't get too deep into telling people don't use this platform, don't do that type of thing. But if I had to pick one, Roblox would be the top of the list right now, with the types of dangers that different groups all over the world are using to target young people right now.
Yeah, and Richie, I'll kind of say something that maybe, I don't know, maybe it's kind of controversial, but predators go where the kids are. They're really, if there's a kid there, it is not a safe space. It is not safe for you as a parent to assume that it's safe. And it's like, why do people rob banks? That's where the money is. And so whether it is church youth group, whether it is a video game that's geared towards children under 10, geared towards teenagers, if it's any kind of activity where people are volunteering, yes, you are going to get some super kind-hearted people that just love to be and help children and mentor them for all the good and positive reasons. But those are also the places that are extremely attractive to the predators. And that's almost where you have to be extra vigilant. And I know sometimes, we have this, and I've been guilty of it, where I, look at parents and I think they got to hang around everything. And why can't kids just be kids? And now I kind of look at it more in terms of, yeah, if my kid is someplace where there are a lot of kids, maybe I do want to be hanging around, because that's probably also where some predators are hanging around looking for vulnerable kids. And I don't know if you're the expert in this, but that's just kind of how I've now come to look at it, as a future grandparent and the person who raised a child at one point. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% accurate. It's an unfortunate piece to that situation is, predators go where the kids are. The predators on the internet are up to date on all of the trends that are, whatever target subpopulation of youth that they're preying on. They're up on all of the trends, what platforms they're on, how to communicate in a way that makes them seem relatable. And we see this a lot when even when we do forensic interviews. A lot of them this past year have had an online sort of connection to it, whether it started online or ended online. But there's 100% validity to what you're saying, and it's unfortunate. And what we see is stranger danger is not really a thing anymore either, except on the internet, typically. But child abuse that we're seeing, 90% of child abuse is perpetrated by someone the child knows and trusts, whether it be a family friend, a coach, a youth pastor, or whatever. It's happening, and they know that it's happening a certain way. But yes, predators go where the kids are, just like bank robbers go where the money is. And I agree with that statement 100%.
So I'm going to be the one on the call on the program today. It'll just be the goof that will ask probably the very basic questions. So I raised kids, 3 boys. I have a granddaughter and a grandson. And I'm saying to myself, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Now, Angie, earlier you said gaming consoles shouldn't be in the bedroom. Okay. Should make sure that the router turns off at a particular time in regard to internet connectivity. But what else am I supposed to do as a parent? And before you answer the question, I think some of the hard, and I'm not making excuses, but I think some of the hard part is when you've got somebody who is a single parent and kids are home by themselves, and unfortunately the gaming console becomes the nanny or the babysitter. And again, I'm not making excuses. I'm just talking about reality. My wife often, I will say things and my wife will say that I'm negative Nelly. I said to her yesterday, I'm really practical Pete. She thought that was funny. I think that's funny, but I see Angie's laughing. She thinks it's funny. Anyway, what am I supposed to do when I'm a single parent and my kids are at home? Like, what advice do you have for me, or advice for any parent? Because that's a real challenge.
So, I mean, I'll jump in real quick because I think one of the things is every opportunity you have to have a conversation, you should have a conversation.
Okay.
Because yes, I understand, and we see all the time, right? Single parents, they're working, most of them more than one job, right? They're very busy. There's also things that kids are involved in that make them very busy, sports, music, etc. But every opportunity you have to have a conversation should be taken advantage of. And those conversations can just be about the behavioral expectations, right? So when you are home alone, don't respond to friend requests on Call of Duty or on Roblox or on whatever platform you're playing if you don't know that person in real life, right? That took 5 seconds. That's a conversation you can have on a car ride, right? Somewhere to the next thing, to whatever. If you can sit down and eat dinner together, right? I know that's even hard nowadays. But regular check-ins, 5-minute car rides, those conversations can be important if you can put the phone down for a minute, right? As the kid, right? The passenger seat, back seat, whatever, probably on a device, even in the car ride. But if you can get their attention for a few minutes, have those conversations and let them know also that if something does happen, that it's not their fault and that they can come to you and ask for help. Because that's another piece that I don't think a lot of kids and parents realize. If and when something happens, you have to be the trusted adult in that they can come to you and say, this happened. Maybe they were a part of it. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it popped up. Doesn't matter. It's not their fault. You're there to listen. You're there to help them. And if you can do that and you can do it calmly, every time that they need something, they're going to come back to you. If you have a big reaction, they're not going to be as apt to come back so quickly. However, it's also valid to want to have a big reaction, right? If something happens to your kid and you have big emotions about it, that's 100% valid. You have to, as a parent, as a trusted adult, whatever that looks like, right? I say trusted adult because I also recognize that not every family is the same. Not all families are created equal anymore. And so caregivers, parents, trusted adults, whatever that looks like, whoever that adult is for that kid or teen, if you can keep your emotional reaction, right, kind of low, talk them through it calmly. Later on, when they're not in the room, if you want to have a big reaction, you want to vent to somebody else, that's fine. That's understandable. But making sure that they feel comfortable to come to you if something else happens, or even if something different happens, right? You want to be available to them. And if they think they can't do that because you're going to get angry or you're going to yell or you're going to get whatever that looks like, they're not going to come to you the second time. So conversations, that communication is huge, and participating, right? If they are playing video games, ask them about it. Hey, what game were you playing? Even if it's in the bedroom. I don't have kids. I have 6 nephews. They all have gaming systems in their bedrooms, right? Hey, what were you playing? Oh, I was playing Battlefield. Usually, if I'm playing a video game, I'm playing with one of my nephews, and one of my 11-year-old nephew and I played Battlefield together, right? So it's like, if he's talking to somebody, I heard somebody in his house the other day say, "Who are you talking to?" It's Uncle Richie. Okay, great, right? So it's like having that time to check in, say, "Hey, who are you playing with? What are you playing? Is it going well?" Whatever that looks like. That's my thing. It's the communication. I don't think there's enough communication between caregivers and kids in general, let alone when it comes to digital things. But just having those conversations can go a great distance in responding to it if something does happen.
It's about being engaged.
Correct.
You have to be somebody that's engaged. And we've talked a lot about youth and gaming platforms, etc. And about a month ago or so, I was asked to go and do an internet safety class with seniors, and that's another population of people that are targets. And
you mean senior citizens, not seniors in high school.
Senior citizens. Yes. Thank you for that. Thank you, Val. I appreciate it. And the things that they share with you that they have done, and the information that they have given away, and the one family that got wiped out financially. And it's just like, oh my gosh, so it's about, whether you're an engaged parent or caregiver, or, you're the child of an elderly parent. And by the way, Angie, I really hope that you take Rich's advice, because I'm going to be, over the next couple of days, I'm going to be telling you something stupid that I've done with technology. So I want you to listen to me. I want you to remain calm and remove emotion, because it's bad. No, I'm just kidding. But that's the part, I think, that a lot of times people, because they're so busy, and yet they don't take that time. And I'm not making excuses, but that's the challenge. We do have a question for Rich. Here we go. Ready? What can someone in the public be doing to help volunteer their time with your organization?
So depending on what you're interested in, you can go to familyservicesinc.net. If you go to the Get Involved tab, there's a place where you can fill out a volunteer form. And depending on where your interest is, if it's the CAC, if it's victim services, if it's the family shelter, whatever that looks like for you, they'll send it to the appropriate kind of program director. And then usually they will be in touch, and we can figure out ways to help you get involved and help us. So
okay, so familyservices.net, and then the Get Involved tab, and complete the form.
Yes, except Family Services Inc.
Familyservicesinc.net.
.net, yeah.
Right. Okay, so familyservicesinc.net. Go to the Get Involved, fill out the form, and hang out with Rich. Very cool.
Sure.
Okay. Angie.
The other thing they can do is they can drop me an email, Angie@reclamere.com, and I'll be happy to make personal introductions to anyone within different programs. I'll be happy to talk with them about my experience. Another thing is that we are always looking for donations of things like small gift cards. We're always looking for things like things for our shelters. The teen shelter is always looking for snacks. Kids are hungry. And so there's so many different ways that you can give of your time, your talent, or your treasure in helping this organization in Blair County. And I think the other thing that's super important to understand is that, we have so many people in our county that are literally one car repair, one major illness, one broken bone away from being homeless. We don't have enough affordable housing in Blair County, just like many parts of the country. And we have so many working poor people. And that is one of the things that was so eye-opening to me, is that we help so many people that are working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. And that's one of the most heartbreaking things for me. And Joe knows that as an employer of folks in Blair County, I get up on my soapbox and I say, why should someone have to cobble together 3 jobs to get a full-time family supporting paycheck? It's just not right. So this idea that nobody wants to work, people want to work. They want to work full-time jobs. They just don't have the support that they need in order to do that, in the form of childcare, transportation, and those types of things.
Yeah, the experience I had, Rich, I told Angie this, and I told my wife, Karen, I guess it was last week. Doesn't matter when. Obviously, over the last couple of weeks, we've had some cold days and cold nights. I mean, it's been really cold. And I often will say to people when I see them, whether at work or wherever, I say, could you imagine being homeless? And then you start to get into a conversation about what does it mean to be homeless, and the temperature, et cetera, and so forth. Like, it's kind of scary. Anyway, I go into a Subway, and I'm getting a sandwich, and I know the woman who is working, who is helping me, because I see her all the time. And I made that same comment to her. I said, can you imagine? It is really, really cold. Can you imagine being homeless? And she looked at me and she said, I have been. And at that moment in time, for myself, at least I stopped, and you take like this deep breath. And then she went and talked about, she lived in her car for a period of time, and, she had one child. The child was obviously in the car with her. And I think that, you start to hear that argument about, who's at fault, and, who's to blame, et cetera, and so forth. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to, let's get past that if we can. But I think it's really about making people aware of what the situation is today, whether we're talking about a homeless shelter, you're talking about people that are in abuse situations, you talk about this whole idea of internet safety for children, internet safety for senior citizens. Angie and I are going to be doing hopefully a better job next year with data security over coffee, but really reinforcing that. Sure, she makes fun of me, I make fun of her. We try to have like a lighthearted time, but it really is about sharing perspectives and making people aware of some of the things that normally you would not have conversations about. You would not realize that, this particular gaming platform is a challenge for your kids. It's dangerous for your kids. And oh, by the way, pay attention to it. Or that, you should pay attention to, when your parent says something to you about, hey, I got this really weird thing in my email from the bank, like you should pay attention to those things. So hopefully, data security over coffee can be somewhat of a platform to be that connection, to bring information to light, to help out, that just simply goes beyond cybersecurity and Reclamere's business and so on. So Rich, again, I want to say thank you. You got a busy time. I'm sure this is kind of crazy toward the end of the year with everything that's going on. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity, if there's anything that you wanted to share with people, whether about your job or fundraising or advice or what have you, before we wrap it up today.
Sure. So, we do, I'll start, I think, with the easy part, I guess, with the fundraising. We are kind of fully now off and running. So we're going to be hosting our third annual Toss Out Child Abuse Cornhole Tournament in April. So April 11th, 2026 at the Bavarian Aid Society in Altoona. If you're able to come, or if you want to get involved, if you want to volunteer, if you want to sponsor, if you want to donate a basket, I'm happy to give you my email address. You can, if you want to do something with the CAC, you can directly email me. It's just R Servello, like it's spelled on the screen, at Family Services Inc.net. I'm happy to talk through anybody who's interested in getting involved with the cornhole tournament. It is my kind of passion project as the CAC director. We've grown it now over the last 2 years. Our first 2 years, we've raised a little over $17,000. We've had 44 cornhole teams and about 180 to 200 people show up the last couple of years. So we have other things. If cornhole's not your thing, don't worry. We have rip tickets, basket raffles, 50-50 drawings, music, food. It's a day-long event. And we love it. It's a great way to connect with the community. It's a great way to spread awareness about what we do. And it also raises funds, which is a nice little bonus for us. That's going to be our annual fundraiser, I think, moving forward for the CAC. Otherwise, we're happy to come and provide net smarts to, youth groups, churches, community groups, other schools. We're available. If people just have questions, they can reach out to us. Our phone number is on Family Services Inc.net on the website. We're happy to sort of be more in the community. We go to events a lot throughout the summer. We're on social media. So, like I guess millennial influencers say, like and subscribe to our Facebook and our Instagram, if you will. But yeah, it's FSI, Center for Child Justice, on both Facebook and Instagram. So, we're the three of us here at the CAC. There's only three of us at the CAC. But everyone, I think, at Family Services, we don't, well, I won't speak for everybody. I'll speak for me. I like to say that I get to go to work every day and I get to meet families. I get to meet kids. Sometimes I get to interview them as a forensic interviewer, but I never say I have to go to work. I never say I have to go do this. I'm fortunate that I have found something fairly young that I think could be what I do until I retire. I've lived in Altoona. I went to Wright Elementary School. Anyone who's local might remember Wright Elementary School. It no longer exists as a school. I went to Keating Junior High, also no longer exists as a school. And I graduated from Altoona High. And every day I get to come and I get to work with families and I get to help them through most likely the most difficult thing that they've dealt with. and it's in our community. It's in Blair County. Most of the families we work with are from Altoona. And so it's incredibly rewarding for me to do this work in Altoona and in Blair County, but also guiding people to their version of healing, which we just hosted a movie screening. I wanted to just mention this. Angie had brought it up in the email. We just hosted a movie screening of a film called Rewind. If you have an opportunity to check it out, it's available on Amazon, and I believe it's available on Peacock. But it's a story of a person, Sasha Joseph Nollinger, who experienced child abuse and the process that he went through before CACs were really established, and the years-long process of investigating and prosecuting generational child sexual abuse that no one should have to go through. The abuse itself, no one should have to go through, but then the years of everything else that gets piled on top of prosecuting something like that. And that's why CACs exist. So I want to leave everyone with the concept of, before CACs existed, children had to tell their story 8, 9, 10 times to 8, 9, 10 different adult strangers. With the CAC model, we all come to one place. Our goal is to minimize the number of interviews that need to be done. We bring law enforcement, we bring CYF, we bring prosecution, we bring mental health, medical, victim advocacy. We bring everyone to the CAC. That child is hopefully interviewed one time, and they get to take that DVD and it becomes evidence, and they can use that versus talking to the kid, a bunch of times. And so that's the important thing. That's why the CAC is so important. That's why the three of us that come to work every day say we get to go to work. We don't have to go to work. And it's because there's value in what we do. And that goes across the agency. There is so much value in what Family Services does for our community, from the teen center to the family shelter to victim services. I spent my first 4.5 years in the agency with victim services. And I would have, if you would have asked me, hey, are you going to be working for Family Services 10 years ago? I probably would have laughed at you. I didn't even know what Family Services was until someone said, hey, they have this job opening and you're looking for a job. Do you want to apply? And some great people took a chance, and I answered the domestic violence sexual assault hotline for the first 6 months I worked for victim services, as a male, which I thought to myself was a bit concerning. I didn't know how that was going to go. But here we are almost 8 years later, and I get to come in to the CAC every day, and hopefully, I think we do. We make an impact and we make a difference for the people that we get to talk to and the families we get to help. So I appreciate this opportunity to be part of this. I'm happy to continue any conversation around net smarts or how to keep kids safe on the internet or how to just keep kids safe in general. But this has been fun for me. I hope it's what you were expecting or hoping it to be.
Oh, absolutely.
No, I just appreciate this. And if anyone wants to get involved with the CAC in any way, feel free to shoot me an email, reach out to Angie. Angie's been amazing. Also, I think I need to acknowledge that, Angie has been amazing as a chair for our committee, as a board member. And I hope that we can just continue that into the future. And hopefully, if you can play cornhole, you're welcome to come to the tournament in April. Maybe the Honey Badgers, I don't know how well they did last year, but they were a team last year. So, if you want to come back again, but no, I genuinely appreciate this opportunity, and, anything else I can do, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to be involved or help.
Sure thing, Rich. I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate your passion. And obviously you live and breathe the mission every day. That's a big deal. And that's not, anything that should be taken lightly. I'm hoping that, at least one person becomes aware of what we talked about today and they reach out and they get involved. I hope more parents pay attention to where their gaming consoles are, what do they do with their router, the conversations that they have with their kids, the level of engagement that they have. I hope that one person has a conversation with a senior parent to make sure that they're in better shape. And I appreciate the fact that Angie did what she did because she didn't have to go from, being involved with iSigma. She could have just gone back to her full-time job. But she decided that she wanted to get involved in the community. And as we do those things, that matters. And the fact that she and I have the freedom and the option to do that is one of the benefits of being a business owner. And I also think it's also one of our responsibilities to give back in our community. So I'm very grateful for that as well. Angie, anything you want to wrap up before we hit the green room and then we boogie out of here?
Well, a couple things. The reason that you and I have the time to give to these types of things is because we have such an unbelievable team supporting us. When I'm working with Family Services or you're working with Family to Freedom, with Farming to Freedom, we're not working with clients. But we have an incredible team that does that and supports our clients very, very well. So I want to say thank you to them, and especially as we round out this year, because they're the ones who allow us to be able to do this type of work. The second thing I want to say is that of all of the places that you can invest your time or your charitable donations, I think the support of people working with abused children is one of the most impactful because, Joe, when you talk to people who've been incarcerated, I know when we go through our domestic violence training, the root cause of so many horrible things in our society starts with a child who was abused.
Mm-hmm.
And getting them, first of all, trying to prevent those types of things from happening in the first place. The second thing is helping parents know how to handle it when it does happen. And then the third thing is getting those kids the support that they need through services like the Children's Advocacy Center. Those are so important. Child abuse and child sexual abuse have ripples through generations, for generations. And so I think that if you really want to work in an area of charitable contributions or charitable work, it is one of the most impactful. And I also want to say that one of the reasons I do what I do on the board and with the committee is because I know myself that I don't have the ability to work directly with the victims themselves. Not all people can. And the people that work at CAC and the people that work with our domestic violence victims, they are the ones that have that vicarious trauma. I feel traumatized every year that I go through training just to be on the board. And so what I want to emphasize is there's no shame in helping in the way that you are able to help, because not all of us can be in those direct support roles, but we all have some role that we can play. And Richie, I am so grateful for everything you do. I'm not sure, how the stars aligned that you and Brittany, your wife, ended up getting involved with Family Services, but I am sure thankful that they did, because we are so, so fortunate to have you and your team really, really spearheading such an important program in our community.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know how the stars aligned either, but they did, and I'm glad that they did. So I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Well, listen, thank you both. I'm going to go ahead and pop everybody into the green room. And I want to say to those faithful listeners of Data Security Over Coffee, I hope you all have a great Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And next year, Angie doesn't know this yet, and I'm not going to tell her until next year. Next year, Data Security Over Coffee is going to be even more gooder, as my granddaughter used to say when she was little. She'd say, Poppy, it could be gooder. And it's going to be gooder, I'm telling you. So you all take care, and I'll see you in the green room.